Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh to our viewers. It is myself, Mujaahid White, and my co-host, Sister Amaarah Garda. First and foremost, we praise, thank, and glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we place salawat and salams upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sister Amaarah, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Wa alaikum salam. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. How are you? I hope you are good. I know you've been busy doing videos all day.
Alhamdulillah, we're well. It's a bit, it was a nice day in Cape Town today. Alhamdulillah, weather was good. The last few days was a bit icy, but Alhamdulillah, today was good. So yeah, Yawmul Jumu'ah, and now we have the weekend. But yeah, we need to continue with the momentum, I guess, and that is why we met tonight. Alhamdulillah. For our viewers, between ourselves, we started discussing the issues around Palestine, and we were seeing marches and videos and all of these things that were happening, alhamdulillah. But then the ceasefire came, and suddenly after the ceasefire, we found that things started dwindling down. The activity was not so much anymore. So just to maintain that the importance around the situation, just because a ceasefire had happened does not mean that the Palestinian struggle is over. The Palestinian struggle will continue until the liberation of the Palestinian people is attained. So with that in mind, we started playing around, and tonight Amaarah, myself and one other co-host will be having a look at a few things, and one of it is reaction videos. So to give the viewers an idea of what a reaction video is, it is random videos that you find on the internet that is shared, whether it be on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever people are sending videos. Then we will discuss the video. We will have a look at certain points, certain important things, lessons that we learn from there. And in a nutshell, that is basically what a reaction video is. However, we're going to do our reaction video slightly differently in that we will have the video played, we will discuss it, but then we'd also like our viewers to come on board, drop a comment on the Facebook page, drop a comment on the YouTube channel, and engage us and voice your opinion about a particular thing, inshallah. This afternoon, as Sister Amaarah was alluding to, we had a live from Sheikh Jarrah, our brother Abdallah Grifat, who is currently in Palestine. He is a representative of Friends of Mizan. He had entered a marathon with the intent to highlight the cause of Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood as well as Silwan. These are two neighborhoods where various families are going to be forcefully removed from their homes. So he joined this marathon and then we had a live from there. And while we're in the live, lo and behold, the Israeli army starts plummeting, and they start beating up the people, and they throw stun grenades, and things just went crazy live while Abdullah is on. Then Abdullah's phone dies, and I'm thinking to myself, Ya Allah, what's happened now? Afterwards, alhamdulillah, Abdullah messaged me to say, sorry, my phone died. But things went horribly bad thereafter. And those are the type of experiences to show the ugly face of the apartheid state of Israel. So yeah, what is the reason for the delay of the Palestinian elections? Well, look, many, Amaarah, you're welcome to jump in at any time, please. But from what I do understand is that not everyone is in favor of the Palestinian Authority. There are people, there are Palestinians that feel that the Palestinian Authority is merely just a facade. They're not looking in the interest of the Palestinian people, and that is their internal politics that they have. Why is there a delay in the Palestinian elections? I do not know. More importantly, is the guy that is running up against Benjamin Netanyahu. That guy is even worse than old Mr. Ben. So I don't know. They're trying to create a coalition government in Israel right now. They've had 4 elections in the past 2 years. That is the amount of faith that they have in Benjamin Netanyahu. But remember, this is just one shaitan being replaced by an even worse shaitan. Um, and that's putting it mildly. This new prime minister, I can't pronounce his name, and I don't see the need to, but he is far worse than Benjamin Netanyahu. Amaarah?
Yeah. Oh, I'm also not excited at all. I was seeing on social media that some people were saying, "Oh, everyone hates Netanyahu. Maybe this guy will be better." And hopefully, in a moment, we'll play a video that kind of shows why that is not necessarily the case. I think what's also interesting is whenever people bring up criticisms of Israel as a country, one of their favorite defenses is, we're the only democracy in the Middle East. And I always think, even if we remove, which is very difficult to do, all the oppression and occupation of Palestine, um, that sort of instability of having a million elections, trying to form governments with literally anyone on the political spectrum, and then having a prime minister that's been there for more than a decade, it's already like, really, is your democracy a democracy, even in terms of that, like, formal process? Yeah. So there's many things. I feel like they just make it worse for themselves. And yeah, this, I'm hoping, inshallah, I mean, that the incoming prime minister most likely will be so bad that the international community won't be able to pretend anymore. I'm hoping that's the only, like, possible positive I could ever see coming from his appointment. But let's
Okay,
watch
so
the
yeah,
video. I'm
yeah, so here we have
reveal
our first
himself.
video. Let's see what happens, inshallah. Bismillah.
From occupied territories, which everyone in the world, including Israel's own Supreme Court, regards as occupied territory. That's the problem. You can't carve out stuff that's not your own.
Mahdi, I guess what you need to do is go back and change the Bible. You need to change the narrative of the Bible because it's all there. And I assume
Israel a theocracy?
all Muslims,
Is Israel now a
Christians,
theocracy?
and
Is it a
Jews.
religious state?
I assume.
Why are you quoting the Bible
that
to me? I'm
all
quoting the Supreme
Christians,
Court
Muslims,
of
and
your
Jews.
country. Hold on, the Supreme Court of your
Let me
country.
finish.
Let me just put the quote of the Supreme Court to you and then you respond.
You're finding...
The Judea and Samaria areas are held by the state of Israel in belligerent occupation. That is the view of the Supreme Court of your country. Are you saying the Bible trumps your Supreme Court? Is Israel now a theocracy?
Let me finish. Billions of Muslims and Christians believe in the Bible. I assume, including yourself, I don't know. If you want to say that our land does not belong to us, I suggest you go change the Bible first, come back and then show me a new Bible that says that the land of Israel doesn't belong to Jews.
Yeah, so Naftali Bennett, that is the possible new prime minister of Israel. That is him. That's Mr. Bennett being light there, Amaarah. That's not with all the sugar and everything added. Yeah, it's an age-old argument that is made that we were promised the land back in ancient times. The reality of this is, however, when we consider, let's take the Americans for example. The Americans, they basically did the exact same thing that the Israelis are doing. They took the land of people that were originally there, and that is the native Arabs. I mean the native Indians, or as we would call them, the Red Indians, the Apaches, the Cherokee Indians. Imagine today, those people must say, well, Mr. Biden and all of you guys, go back over the pond, go and live in England again where you came from. The argument that is being made that this was promised to us 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, whatever they want to say, it is a stupid argument, because then we need to leave here because we were never indigenous. The indigenous people of the Cape, for example, was the Khoi and the San. And where are they to be found? The Khoi, and I think the San is almost completely extinct. And that is on account of, this is the ugly side of colonialism that the British and the French and for example, the Dutch Heerbaas, all of these people that came and colonized our land, this is the reality of what you had created. Now you want to go foul? I mean, come on, you can't have your cake and eat it.
Yeah, I think what's also not interesting, but like I think Naftali specifically has this arrogance about him, which I think you have to have anyway to be a politician in that area. But he has this arrogance that whenever people put questions to him that are difficult, it's almost like he's unfazed by whatever facts exist. And I think the argument that, the Bible says it's ours, therefore it's ours, the Bible is not something that is like factually something that everyone agrees to or agrees about, or ascribes to. So if you say he couldn't answer that question of, is there a tension between the Constitution and the Bible, which again brings up the issue of, is this country a democracy? There's many things that point to no, it's not. Yeah, I think he and a lot of other defenders of Israel hope that saying the Bible promised this to us is enough reason, and everyone else that has any sort of desire to own the land must just put their arms up and say, okay, fine, it's yours. That's not how the real world works, and that's exactly why they have to use arms. Because you can't expect people to just leave if you say, here's a Bible that says it's mine. Yeah, that's why I think it's arrogant to even make this argument.
Yeah, we have a comment from Riyadh Rauda. Assalamu alaikum. What can be expected from Naftali Bennett if he becomes the next Prime Minister of Israel? They say the greater the oppression, the greater the resistance. Well, I saw a video of this guy where he says there should not exist a single Palestinian in Palestine. Does that mean he is willing to kill everyone that is there, that is not Israeli? Well, I couldn't put it past him. Dhalimin has always shown that they are willing to do whatever it takes. Consider Fir'aun, for example. He said, Ana Rabbuk, I am your Lord. So, and look to what extent he went in persecuting the Israelites at the time. The crazy thing is our mentor and our teacher, Maulana Taha Karan, Hafidhallah, he's not experiencing good health right now, but he wrote a paper on this dynamic where the oppressed before now becomes the oppressor. That once upon a time you were the oppressed, in the case of the Jews in for example, Germany and Poland and so on, and now they have become the oppressor. And it's strange that happens. What I do know about this guy is like far rightist, and he is willing to do, personally, my opinion is, he's willing to do whatever it takes. I don't know if you agree, disagree, Amaarah?
Yeah, I do agree. That's why I'm worried, and that's why I'm hoping the only positive that could ever come out of him being the leader of Israel would be if it encourages others who have tried to be neutral or have pretended to be neutral, let me say that, that it sort of pushes them to a state where you actually can't ignore what he's doing anymore. We see this often, that I agree in terms of, if the oppression is heavier, then the resistance must be heavier. But hopefully then the international outrage will be bigger and easier to spread. At the moment, there's these things that Israel has been able to explain away, and that's why they've managed to keep so much international support. But once you cross certain lines, personally, I think they've crossed many lines. But I think if the new prime minister then takes as much control as he says he wants, as he implies, and the force of, not wanting anyone that's not Israeli or not Jewish, and speaking very explicitly about his views on Arabs, there's a lot of things, I think, if he does, would be really detrimental for Israel. So I hope that, if he ever crosses that line, that it's like immediate response and immediate condemnation and immediate action. But I hope it's not a prolonged reign, because I don't have high hopes.
Look, we're praying that these atrocities will come to an end, and they will be unseated from their position in power, inshallah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Assalamu alaikum to Maulana Sabri David. Maulana says it's an ideal that all occupiers of Palestine endeavor towards, so we can expect the same always. Yeah, that's just the reality. They're not going to put in someone that is going to give in to global pressures. They're not going to be someone that's going to give in to. They're always going to take someone worse than Benjamin Netanyahu. Their version of the Bible, perhaps. Yeah, look, the Bible speaks about the second coming. We're all waiting for the second coming. And when Nabi Isa is going to come, it's going to be a few pleasant surprises for some people. Yeah. Another comment here. No, we have cow blood.
I think that's meant to say koi.
Koi.
I think that's meant to say koi.
So I guess we have koi blood. Yeah. Khairan. Riyad Rauda again says, we have seen all over the world that tens of thousands of protesters all over the world have protested in favor of Palestinians, even in most Western cities, as well as for the first time, the mainstream Western media has spoken out against Israeli aggression. Is the tide turning for Western governments to put more pressure on Israel? Amaarah?
I think so. I've been listening to a few podcasts and videos and news coverage of this general opinion, and is it changing? That's been a big discussion. So Al Jazeera's done stuff about it, BBC's done stuff about it, I think CNN as well. And there is the sense that, number one, I think as much as we talk about, America is not anyone's ally, at the end of the day, we know that they control a lot of the narrative globally. And because of their resources, they control a lot of what other countries do or don't do. So specifically in America, there's already been discussions that currently with the Democrats in Congress, a lot of them have been willing to really debate this issue beyond what has been done before. So that's, now I'm talking about the Squad, which is a group of incredible young women that are fighting for justice in all spheres. And specifically Rashida Tlaib, who is Palestinian American, and Ilhan Omar as well from Somalia. I think they have turned the tide in the sense that they are willing to speak up in ways that I haven't seen before in American politics. So it's that, on the one hand, they are pushing from a congressional perspective. But on the other hand, I was reading another article about Christian evangelicals and the younger Christian evangelicals also sort of getting uncomfortable now because they've seen all of the documentation about how aggressive Israel is to Palestinians. It's almost this thing of the default people in the West are born with and grown up with is that Israel is right and Palestinians are wrong and terrorists. And now as they like sort of exposed to different videos, different feedback from people on the ground, different coverage, they start realizing, okay, there's a lot here that I was lied to about. So I have seen a lot of articles that point to that sort of change and that sort of willingness to be more critical, which was not there for very long. The other thing is celebrities speaking out. And I mean, yeah, I have like an issue with the way that we are obsessed with what celebrities say, but we can't deny their influence. So when celebrities like Seth Rogen come out and say, as a Jewish person, I was lied to, this is the truth, this is why I support Palestinian struggle, that's incredible. And even if that changes the mind of one person, I think that's progress. So I think the tide is turning. I'm not sure how much it's turning and how quickly. I wish it was quicker. Even here in South Africa, I wish it was quicker. But I'm hopeful.
Yeah, look, this comes on the, and this is an important thing that must be remembered, that all of these activisms and all of these various standing up against injustices comes on the backdrop of the Black Lives Matter movement. The Black Lives Matter showed how far humanity has sunk, where a man can be killed in full view of so many onlookers. And yes, it became a racial thing, but a racial thing is still a humanitarian thing. And here we find in Palestine the exact same dynamics of human rights being violated. And just a shout out to Abu Bakr Samodien. But I think we need to, and that is why these type of programs are so important, to highlight that, yes, bombs are no longer dropping, but don't forget, these atrocities are still happening. Subhanallah. And again, we cannot only pray that it ends soon, inshallah. Brother Hanif says, don't give these Zionist terrorists airtime. Look, we use what there is out in public to inform ourselves, to paint a picture of what a person's mindset is at. So we need the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, I guess. So I wouldn't take it as us giving them airtime, but yeah. Maulana Sabri is saying their version of the Bible, perhaps. Look, the Bible has questionable things to be found within the Bible, and at the end of the day, we are not going to be the ones that are going to go that way. The moment we're going to start pulling out religious books, what's going to happen is the connotation of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is going to be made religious. It is not religious. It is humanitarian. There are human rights violations that are happening on a daily basis. So let us not be drawn into the religious arguments, but rather be drawn into, this is an apartheid state for these reasons. These are these are the frameworks with which in the Palestinian government is removing or not giving the rights of the Palestinian people, whether it is the usurping of the land, whether it is the forced removals out of their properties. We need to maintain that narrative. The moment we're going to go into the religious narrative, then it's going to be a whole other ball game. I'll leave this one to you, Amaarah.
Even if they're using the Bible, the way they are oppressing the Palestinians is not something any religion preaches. Yes, shukran, Akila, for that. So I think that's true. But also, as we saw in that video with Mehdi Hassan, he himself sort of deflects from the narrative of the Bible, because this is something that's happening in a country. It's not something that's happening in a debate. It's not something that's happening in like an ancient story or in some abstract place. At the end of the day, human rights exist across the world. And when those things aren't being adhered to, when certain conventions aren't being adhered to, certain human rights are being violated, then you need to keep the narrative strictly on that to prove why it's wrong. I think also this purposeful notion of, let's say the Bible promised it to us, is an attempt to prevent people from attacking anything Israel does and from critiquing anything Israel does. If you can say, no, that's what my Quran says, it makes it harder for the person who is trying to critique you, even if that critique is actually legitimate. So it's that whole thing of, is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism? Is Zionism itself part of what it means to be a Jew, what it means to follow the religion of Judaism? So I think it is our duty, whether we subscribe to Bibles or Qurans or nothing, whatever it is. I think Mujaahid, you are 100% correct. We need to maintain the fact that this is a country that's committing these atrocities, and they need to be held accountable as a country. They can't say, our defense is the Bible. Globally, that's not an argument that you can make. So we need to force them to not be able to make that argument. Mujaahid, you are muted, so you're talking to yourself.
Yeah, I need expert advice, so that's why that happens. Our other host is here, Brother Arshad Samodien from Youth for al-Quds. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Mujaahid, and our dear sister Amaarah. Ahlan wa sahlan.
Wa alaikum salam, Arshad. Nice to see you. I hope you're doing well.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. In fact, Alhamdulillah, the last 2 weeks been struggling with a bit of a sore throat and some flu symptoms, but as I told the Mullah Mujaahid earlier today, that I feel 99.5% good.
No, that's not a bad number. I'm sure the missing part is because you were sitting in traffic. That can ruin anyone's 100% capacity.
That's it. But alhamdulillah, I got a cup of coffee next to me. I just quickly made a coffee before I entered the show, so that's the last 0.5%.
Alhamdulillah.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we're going to go into our next video, inshallah. Look, Arshad, we don't know what we're doing. We're just hanging out and having a discussion. So yeah, let's see what happens. Can we have the next video, inshallah? Abdullah is online. It's just that he's busy driving. So as soon as he gets to where he needs to be, he's going to enter as well, inshallah. So we'll have the next video, inshallah.
Doesn't look like this video feels like playing.
Not playing, yeah. Hold on. I have a video that I'll be sharing. Oh, is it playing? No. Okay. Here's one that I think is it puts the history of Palestine in quite in a short period of time in a very good manner. Yeah. All right, so I don't know what you guys think.
Lucky there were subtitles because I think there was a problem with the sound. But I think it's a great example of how important it is to use social media, especially now. Abdullah, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
أهلا أستاذ عبد الله.
Akhi Abdullah, you look tired. Did you run so much today?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right.
How's
How's
the legs?
everyone? Sorry, I didn't hear any question. If you asked me a question, my legs are fine. Alhamdulillah. I'm not that unfit. I can run, but it was such an exciting day. Oh, Alhamdulillah. You know,
Do you know what
after
was
my
going
phone
through my
died and
head
we
when
switched
you
off.
didn't come back on? Abdullah?
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So I was saying after my phone went off after it died, and I'm sure like the last thing you probably saw was how everybody was celebrating and like people were dancing. The guys were basically like singing some revolutionary songs, some traditional songs and stuff like that. As we were there, you could see that we were like in a corner, right? The soldiers came there and started throwing like stun grenades and tear gas, and it was like a messy thing. Hey,
At that 10 section,
unfortunately,
there was a Abdullah
yes,
by the
yes.
10
They
section.
actually broke down the tent. Yes,
Yeah,
they actually broke down
salam.
the tent. They dismantled. Thank you for that. Right? They dismantled the tent actually.
Wow.
It's
Is
Look,
everyone
guys,
okay?
it was.
Is everyone safe now? Did everyone
no,
manage to like run away?
so some guys were injured. The ambulance had to take some of them. Even some of the paramedics also were injured. So at least one paramedic that was the guys were carrying. It wasn't easy, like at all. Like if you guys want to see what's happening, I think when everybody started running away from from under the tent, because at that situation, like all you think about is like there is no way like to go besides actually going through the soldiers, because it's one way. It's one way in, and we are on this mountain, between the houses, and there's no place to go to. Right where I was standing, next to me there was like a cliff, right, and it's like about 4 or 5 meters high, so nobody could jump from there. And the others can't climb up there. And in front of us it was the tent, and behind it, like, it's a bush basically. There's no place to go on that side. So the only way
I think Abdullah's connection is a bit bad.
Can you guys hear me better now?
Yeah. Okay, here's the video, Abdullah.
Okay.
Yeah, salam. Yeah, salam. So I don't know if you guys saw our live this afternoon. The live this afternoon, it was very chilled. It was very relaxed. It was fun. We were joking. We had, as Abdullah was going through the area, started running from Sheikh Jarrah. Everyone started warming up and stretching. And then he had a couple of interviews, spoke to a couple of people. There was everyone was wearing these T-shirts, 7850. He spoke to people, asked him what is 7850, and subhanallah, it was basically the 7,850 people that will be affected by the forceful removal of the families from Sheikh Jarrah and Silwan, and that is why they were having this marathon. And then he starts going through the marathon. He follows the route, speaks to taxi drivers, speaks to other people. We passed 2 churches. We went down Salahuddin Ayyubi Street. We got to the wall, to the old city. So we had all of these things. There were 2 groups of people that were singing songs, whether it be revolutionary songs, whether it was traditional songs or traditional Palestinian songs. And then everything was fine. There was some artwork on the one wall. He turned back to show the artwork. And then suddenly things just went horribly bad. Stun grenades were thrown. People were beaten up. And it was truly surreal to see. You cannot imagine. I'm sitting here on this side and I'm thinking to myself, here you see it live. I know this man. This man has been to my home. We've worked together for a while now, and here he's facing this craziness. And subhanallah, it just continued and continued, and then his phone went off, and I'm thinking to myself, Ya Allah, what's happening to Abdullah? And then alhamdulillah, afterwards he messaged me and told me, no, my battery died. And this video that we saw now, I didn't see this. This is the first time I'm seeing it, because someone's battery died. Please charge your phone, inshallah. Yeah, so it was harrowing to see how, I mean, Abdullah, you mentioned, I remember in the live you mentioned that some old lady also got hurt. That is why the one ambulance had to come.
Yes, I was seeing that, like they were busy beating up one of the, like an old auntie, but I don't know if the ambulance was for her, to be honest.
Okay.
Because I thought that she was also trying to fight back. I haven't seen her, like after that, I never saw her again. But I did go up where she was, and so, you know, at that attack, what you saw earlier, as we were arriving, you remember, as we were arriving, we heard the stun grenade, and we saw the soldiers running around, beating up some guys, and, you know, throwing stun grenades at tear gas at us. So, but like after a while, then they withdrew, right? They went away. So everybody went back, and we thought, okay, now let's go back and let's just finish this marathon, because we were at the, you know, finish line. Please stop me if you can't hear me, or if you can actually then. So as we were, I'm sorry, as Muhammad, at the finish line, we saw that there was no soldiers there, and the guys starting, you know, playing some, you know, Palestinian songs about, you know, traditional songs, some revolutionary songs. And everybody was like just starting, you know, to warm up, because they saw that as a victory, as actually that ran away, basically, and that we managed to actually all go to the tent, which was the finish line. And as everybody was, you know, as we were basically celebrating, and like people, I kept saying that it feels like a wedding day. You know, it feels like everybody was just so happy that we were all together there. We were like, you know, waving the Palestinian flag, and we were celebrating. It was such a beautiful atmosphere. And suddenly we see all the guys from the back shouting to everybody to get out, you know. And in the middle of that, you don't know like what to do. And as I was explaining earlier, I was looking to my right side. It was like there was a cliff that's 4 or 5 meters high. On the left-hand side, there was actually a big, you know, it's a mountain. We were on a mountain, and in front of us there was that tent where everybody was in and was, you know, celebrating, and the only way was back, you know, and that's where the soldiers came from, right? So we all actually did go run back, you know. We went through them. I remember, you know, I see, you know that these stun grenades, they look like a ball with like a top, right? They look like a pomegranate, if you know, but it's obviously black, not red, though, right? And, you know, I seen in that space, you know, you only see smoke, so you look down and you see them between you, you know, and your feet, like between your feet. And the only thing I could remember there was to just kick them away from me, because it takes second for those to explode. So I would just kick it away, and I don't know where it goes, and I just kept moving. I saw, like, you know, some people were crying, others trying to look for the person that they came with, and it was just like, and something really beautiful is that the people who live there, they were pulling people into their homes. They were telling everybody, come in, you know. And if they see somebody who doesn't know what to do or has nowhere to go, they would grab you from the back of your t-shirt, and they pull you into their house, you know. And everybody's just shouting to everyone, encouraging everyone. They're telling everybody, go to your home, go to the houses. And you would see in this, like in a house, like maybe 20, 30 guys. Nobody knows like who the next person is, or even the owner of the house. The owner of the house would know no one. And they would just give them shelter and give them onions, to resist the smell of the tear gas, and just basically like supporting each other. I myself, I went to a shop to buy water, and the guy told me, just take it. Like there was a few of us, he said, and I was like, no guy, like I have to pay, and at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't live there, and I know that their situation is much worse, and I insisted to pay. He said, like, you just came, that's enough. And he refused. He refused to take money for the water.
Are you parking illegally or
Sorry,
something?
no, I'm actually waiting. I'm waiting.
You've been in South Africa too long, Habibi. Parking wherever you want.
No, you see, it's really bad. And I'm not blocking anyone, but it's just like because I'm in a way in the queue, so they ask me if I want to go in or not, or they should take my spot. But
okay, Khairan, so while you're sorting yourself out, we have a comment by Hanif. We have a comment by Hanif Dali. We must just keep speaking and posting about Palestine. P.S. I'm still posting 24/7 and don't post anything else. I think that is brilliant advice. Continue, inshallah. That is one of the driving forces that makes this, my opinion, that makes this conflict very different to the previous ones. The fact that we have social media and we can bombard all mainstream media with it, inshallah. Brother Riyad is saying, it seems like the two-state solution is no longer possible since 600,000 illegal settlers are occupying the West Bank. What is the solution? Is a single-state solution based on the South African example the only practical solution, where we have a democratic state for both Israelis and Palestinians? Loaded question. What is the solution? Before we get to that discussion, what do you guys think about the video that I posted or that I showed? Personally, I think it encapsulates all of the history of Palestine. The fact that the British just gave it away when they had no right to give it away. The Balfour Declaration is important. And I think everyone needs to start somewhere with the history of Palestine. It's no use we speaking, but you have no idea what you're speaking about. We need to become informed. And I thought that video really encapsulated how things, on a broad spectrum, very broad strokes, how things developed in Palestine. So and also because it had that very old-fashioned type of a rhythm to it. Yeah, so it was quite interesting. It's very uncommon, alhamdulillah.
We couldn't listen to that video.
Serious?
There was no sound. We were reading the subtitles.
Let's see if Mullah Yusuf can get it for us again on a.
But one thing, maybe one comment regarding that video is what we are saying over and over these days is that this conflict is not complicated. When you speak to those on the other side, they want to say, no, it's complex, no, it's complicated, no, there's a long history. But it's simple videos like that shows you in 1 minute what's happened in the last 100 years. There's an oppressor, there's an aggressor, there's those that came with an evil intention to steal the land, and came to do that gradually from the late 1800s to 1940s, and then came in with militias, and then they took it over, and with the help of the so-called democratic world, and then if you tie that in to the video, to the little video of the breaking up of the tent of the events of this afternoon, it shows that is everyday Palestine. I mean, all our viewers should know that is what happens in Palestine each and every day. Whether it is at an event like that, whether it is at a checkpoint, whether it is trying to get into a school, trying to get into a mosque, whether it is trying to go to work, whether it is trying to get to your farmland, that is Palestine every day. On the Mujaahid, it's that video is still, we still can't hear it.
See, is it still okay? We'll have our technical guys sorted out, inshallah.
Yeah, so it's not complex, it's not complicated. It's videos like that that can explain to us in 1 minute what is Palestine, and it's a clash, or it's an assault on people that came together among their own and this afternoon in their own neighborhood, and being pounced upon, being assaulted and beaten up, and stun grenades. In fact, I mean, that is the apartheid South Africa for you. I mean, this is and that is why we say it all the time, that the apartheid Israel has learned so much from apartheid South Africa. I mean, in fact they were working very, very close by their own admission. By their own admission, they were working very close with each other. They, in fact, in this one book I was reading, that apartheid South Africa were even capturing and killing people on behalf of apartheid Israel in Africa.
Yes,
and vice versa to that extent. And apartheid South Africa didn't last. They have learned some of the lessons, maybe some of the weaknesses even of apartheid South Africa, and they are trying to close that gaps and to make them last a little bit longer. But definitely, I mean, we don't need to tell any activist and any young person and even old person, man, woman, and child across the world that's witnessing the events of the last few weeks, that we have turned a point of no return. We have gone past the point of no return. You know, and the struggle for Palestine symbolizes the struggle for justice in everyone's own country, because there's so much oppression and injustice all over the world. So people want to join and support the Palestinian struggle, because they see that this as the peak of injustice, which is happening in a different, or maybe in a smaller form, in their own countries, like the Black Lives Matter. And then if you go to each and every country, you're going to find something similar. I mean, our apartheid is not over. I mean, apartheid formally is over, but we are still living the legacy of apartheid. So South Africans, when they see this, it gives us hope to continue, the unfinished business, the unfinished fight for equality, and to finish the legacy of apartheid here in our own land.
Barakallah. I think Abdullah is back. Abdullah, assalamu alaikum. Are you back?
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I parked, alhamdulillah, and I'm on my way to the hotel now. Sorry. There is, for those who visit Jerusalem, there are, in the old city, there are few Palestinian-owned hotels. One of them is sorry, Muhammad al-Hashim. So,
okay, let's
try
let
to
him first
support
get
the
his
people
room,
that
and then we.
as much as possible.
Shall we add you afterwards
Sorry?
when you sorted at the hotel?
No, I'm walking now. So I'm walking in the
Okay.
old city. We can talk so long.
Barakallah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so Abdullah, we will pose this comment to you, inshallah. The comment says,
Yes.
it seems like the two-state solution is no longer possible, since 600,000 illegal settlers are occupying the West Bank. What is the solution?
Yes.
Is a single-state solution based on the South African example the only practical solution, where we have a democratic state for both Israelis and Palestinians?
Well, I think we should start with the point that it was never a viable solution, right? The two-state solution, which as I said the last time, actually, it shouldn't be called a two-state solution. It should be called a two-state problem, because it creates more problems than it brings any solutions, right? So, but for us as Palestinians, what we learn from probably the South African experience is that, once settler colonialism, once settlers are, like, say, 3 generations in the country, it becomes even more difficult to in a way tell them to leave, right? Because then it becomes much more difficult. Obviously, we as Palestinians, we would prefer, they go back home to wherever they came from. But the South African solution, I believe, is the next or the second best solution at the moment. Obviously, if you compare that with the two-state solution. Because the two-state solution, in the first place, it was based on the assumption that Palestinians will agree on having, only 20% of Palestine. How is that fair or just, right? So there is no so yeah. Alhamdulillah. Were there other questions?
So we've been looking at a few videos and just giving our reactions to it. But here's a comment from Abu Bakr Khaland. He says, Arabs are Semites too. If you are an anti-Semitic, then you are anti-Arab as well. And that is very important to note. Another question that came in to us privately was something happened in Jabal Sabih in the village of Baita. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened there. Next one, Amaarah, Barakallah fi for the live coverage. This should be done often for awareness to see what's happening on the ground. Alhamdulillah. Couldn't agree more. We need to continue the momentum that we have reached. Brother Ahmed is saying Jordan's King Abdullah II and its Prime Minister Bishr al-Khasawni has a dominating geographical viewpoint of the whole of Zionist #Israel. Without them even needing to leave the Jordanian border, mere simple and cheap shelling from its borders alone will be enough to destroy all of Israel. I don't think we should be using words like destroying Israel and stuff like that. Rather, we need to show Rasulullah ﷺ at all times maintained a level of respect and dignity. So destroying all of Israel, I think we should consider a better narrative, inshallah. Not that I disagree with anything else, but yeah, no fancy rockets or fancy technology needed. Okay, I can't see there's something in front of, okay. No fancy rockets or fancy technology needed, even though they may have it. Yet, #Jordan will not respond to liberate Al-Aqsa and its oppressed people. Turkey, Pakistan, Turkey, and all the 64 Muslim nations. Yeah, much can be said about the Muslim nations, Amaarah. I don't know.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm even hesitant nowadays to even use those terms like Muslim nation. What does that even mean? Because I'm not sure what is Islamic about any of those nations at the moment. Abdallah wants to say something about that. So please, Abdallah, you definitely, I'm sure everyone wants to hear what you have to say on that.
Amaarah, please continue first. Continue your point.
Yeah, I mean, we call them Muslim nations, I guess, because they are Muslim majority. A lot of them have Islam like enshrined in their character, sometimes in their finding documents. But it's weird because I think before the normalization of ties with Israel happened, there were already so many instances of human rights violations in these Muslim majority countries, whether it's abuses of workers' rights, whether it's abuses of women's rights, whether it's xenophobia. They were literally like, there's this character, I think, that I see now when I talk about these different places, and that character is that these countries, I think, assume that they can basically hurt and oppress whoever they feel like, and they won't have consequences. And a lot of the time, they don't have consequences. And a lot of the time, we still call them Muslim countries, and that's why I'm thinking, like, let's reimagine what it means to be a Muslim country. Not just because Muslims should support Palestine, but because Muslims should have this moral compass that calls for justice in any state of oppression. Palestine is obviously the biggest one that we all know of and we all talk about. But yeah, to be honest, when I read about the normalization of ties with Israel, I was disappointed, but I was not surprised. Yeah.
Okay, he's.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can.
I can hear you, yeah.
Yeah, so I totally agree with everything that you say. And I was about to say that I think that we need to be, we rely on this Muslim Ummah, etc., etc., which is, in a way, I feel that it makes us sit back and say, like, listen, there is a big, each one of us has been saying that, it's someone else, right? There is an ummah, as if it's like a third party, as if it's not us who's,
I think Mossad is playing with his Wi-Fi again, Amaarah.
Unfortunately, as you said, a lot of those who we... Sorry?
We can only hear like random parts of your discussion. We can hear that you're making good points, but then like cuts every few seconds.
For the viewers, whenever this happens, we just blame it on Mossad.
And it happens often.
It happens often. I think we will have one more video, and then inshallah we will start concluding. Brother Riyad asked the question, how effective is BDS and how much is the consumer boycott hurting Israel? Amaarah, your thoughts?
I mean, I think that BDS was very effective a few years ago, and I think it had a bit of a period where people were sort of not participating as much. Now I've seen that they are gaining more momentum. I think they are making their case a bit better. I'm not sure if they've changed strategy or why that's changed, but I think at the moment there is more like lenient. No, there is more of a tendency to support whatever BDS is calling for. In terms of how much it's hurting Israel, yeah. To be honest, it's really difficult to say. I don't think it's something Israel themselves would ever admit if it was hurting them. But still, we need to understand that these boycotts are effective if they continue to a broader scale. So you need to look at Israel's biggest trading partners and then try and get some sort of pressure from those partners. And not just for boycotts, but what we actually need is sanctions. That I think is the biggest thing. What I'm waiting for, I haven't really seen much of this. I'm waiting for companies that are involved in investment in Israel and especially in the occupied territories to pull out and say, actually, sorry, like this was a bad
New
mistake.
Zealand. I'm not an All Black fan. I'm just saying I'm not an All Black fan, but Jacinda, she did. I mean, they removed like 80 or 90% of their if not everything, of the government pension fund out of 5 of the major banks of Israel. So kudos to them, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of us just sit and wish that the government's but that's the thing. You need this sort of like large scale commitment, and I think that us boycotting products hopefully will get there. But at the same time, sort of on the one hand, you're boycotting products and you're making those products sort of like not in demand because we're not going to buy clover, so you don't have to like you don't produce as much clover as you used to produce. But on the other hand, you do need to keep up calling for your government to take a stance, because that's the easiest way instead of relying on each individual consumer. If the government says you can't trade with XYZ company, that would be better. These big companies, though, I'm really just waiting for, like, I saw on Twitter yesterday, someone tweeted Airbnb, and they said, "Hi, Airbnb, please can you help me? I have a problem with one of the listings on your app." And Airbnb obviously thought this is a normal consumer complaint. They responded and they were like, "Please tell us what's wrong. Let us know how we can help you." And he replied and he was like, "I see you have these listed in the occupied territories. You can't do this. Like, when are you going to stop supporting Israel apartheid?" And I haven't seen a reply still. I'll go check later today. But those sort of companies need to be saying, okay, this is, I mean, I don't think there's an ethical argument. We can argue about how ethical these big companies are. But purely from a branding perspective, it needs to be like, this is too much for us. It's not worth the fight. We are just going to pull out anyways. So I'm waiting for that to happen. I think that will be a good momentum gaining event for all of us that are engaged in whatever BDS calls for.
Yeah, look, we had an incident here in Cape Town where an employee of a certain financial company, I'll mention the company's name, Discovery, South Africa, and he had posted that he supports Israel and a whole lot of other things. And yeah, so myself and some of my friends, and then we just flooded the Facebook page and the emails, and this is the crazy thing. They come out with a very weak apology thereafter, but the apology is just it's pegged against, look, you need to apologize because otherwise you're going to lose your job or whatever it might be. It's how much sincerity is in there. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Allah knows best as to how much sincerity they have. However, this guy came out like 3-4 days afterwards. Discovery probably had a meeting with him and said, look, you need to apologize and whatever. But it's not enough. It's not enough. Fully agree with you. I do, however, have an alternative viewpoint to this whole BDS thing, and that is, for how long is the Ummah still going to say, boycott them? When is the Ummah going to say, let's have our own? It's a simple thing. If you have Muslim dairies, if you have Muslim manufacturers of whatever, you're sourcing everything, whether it be from Malaysia or Indonesia or wherever you're sourcing it from, and Muslim supporting Muslim. It's not about it being a Muslim thing. It's not about it being a whatever. It's about, you find like-minded people that they fighting the same just cause, and then you invest in that. When you start doing that, giving people alternatives, then it can be sustainable. But to call for people to leave a certain brand for the next 6 months or whatever, the next 6 months, yes, they might be hurting, but we need to become an ummah that empowers themselves, inshallah. Yeah, so that's the last comment on the comment section of the live. I think we have one more video, inshallah, and then we will conclude.
الأطفال 12 سنة بتحكي على 11 سنة، يعني في نص الليل الولد يصيح من شان. أنا كنت يعني كان مقابل قسم الأشبال. الأطفال 12 سنة بتحكي على 11 سنة، يعني في نص الليل الولد يصيح من شان الله بدي أمي. أنت يعني مربطة وزنزانة مسكرة يعني أقسم بالله كل ما أتذكرهم بدي أبكي. يعني أنا الحمد لله طلعت، بس الأولاد اللي جوا وضعهم. يعني أنا الحمد لله أيام كانت معدودة، بس الأطفال، طب ما في حقوق إنسان؟ ما في حدا يطلع للولاد. يعني تنزلي اقسم بالله تنزل يا زلمه على غرفة الانتظار لقيت الولد يكون طب بتستحي انك انت مش قادر تعمل له شيء. طب ما هذا العجز، احنا عاجزين. انا قبل ما اكون صحفية انا بنت القدس، يعني انت بتتهمني اشياء انا يعني من واجبي اني انا اسويها كمان. شو برفع على فلسطين؟ طب ما انا فلسطينية، يعني شو التهمة اللي مقدم لي اياها؟
تهمة باطلة بالمناسبة، انت موجودة
انا موجودة مش رافعة شيء.
You guys can go first.
Yeah, there's so much that can be said, but when we see the level, when I look at the level of oppression, kids, like the journalist there is describing, that she met in the cells for a few days, 12 years, 13, 14, and we know there are some even younger than them. And many of them are held for long periods of time. Mona Mujaahid, I a while ago, I was reading about some of the kids that were arrested in the 2000 and the Al-Aqsa uprising of 2000 to 2004. Some of those kids were also arrested at 12 years old and 13 and 14 and 11 years old, and some of them were never released. Some of them went in, they as the uprising it lasted for a long time. Some of them would leave. There might be protests. They would leave their school classroom, and what this one case, this boy is now in there for almost 20 years. He still has the Game Boy. The Game Boy toy, the game that he had with him on that day that he was arrested. He was 12 years old. He spent 20 years in an unjust incarceration now. He has become a man in an unjust jail. And now he's in his 30s and he's been there since 12 years old. When you see a system like this, then and the heights of oppression that it's reaching, I have to agree with journalists like Harry Fear when they say that it has reached a height. It can only go down from here for Israel. It can only go down when you have reached, when there's no more limits for you to cross, where there's no more abuses to shock the world, where there's no more red lines, when there's no more resolutions for you to undermine local, international jurisdiction. There's nothing left. There's no more to shock the world for. We know that it's a downward spiral for them, and it's at a juncture like this that we need to, like you said, Mona Mujaahid, that we need to close the ranks, that we need to, from an international solidarity point of view, that we need to go beyond the march and the protest and the picket, but we need to look at that support becoming even more meaningful. We saw this afternoon, like every day, Palestinians for this noble and just cause, putting their pure bodies on the line, their life and limb, they're putting it on the line every day. So we need, and like Amaarah was saying, I mean, the boycotts is a start of a specific movement. We need to start rallying our government to get into next gear. Our government can do a lot. South Africa as a government is looked up very respectfully in the world, especially when it comes to human rights, because of our apartheid history. You know, when you travel anywhere in the world, anyone who's South African and has been, overseas, and when you tell somebody that you are from South Africa, it's different to, for example, you tell them, oh, I'm from Canada, I'm from Kenya, I'm from UK. I mean, when you tell somebody you're from South Africa, Yeah, no, like, and I've got some experience when you want to get somebody's attention, even like a famous person, yeah, we've been in some situations like this in the world, right? So we were at big conferences. You want to get this guy's attention. You tell him that you're from South Africa, and immediately he makes space for you. Immediately he says, "Okay, come, let's sit one side." Immediately, you get that attention. Because South Africa symbolizes the fight of good over evil for the world. That is what South Africa, in the big context, South Africa symbolizes that for the people of the world. So we need to, while we still have that, what we still have left of that, we need to use that that leverage on the international scene. And that is why South Africans generally need to become more active in our own cities, in our own country, closer to the government, to help the government to make the correct decisions. I mean, even in our own country, the Israeli lobby, it's a shame that they have, so much, that they are doing so much, to sway the opinions of many of our politicians, even in this country. And this is a struggle. This is a struggle country. This is a, so we can do a lot. We have to do a lot. I personally feel that the from a public point of view, the boycott is a good sustainable movement on a wide scale. I mean, every family, every house, every street, you're doing it every day. Like, you're not buying the clover, for example, or any other product that is openly supporting the separated Israel. So and that should lead us to the next steps. Inshallah.
Barakallah. Amaarah?
Yeah, no, I think that's very apt. And I mean, this thing of people looking up to South Africa as a guide, sort of, and as an example of what can happen when the people take their power. It's not something new, and it's not unique to this issue in particular. But of all the issues, I think this one should make us as South Africans stand up even more. Because it's one thing, to see the president do an interview in France and then say, "What I see in Palestine reminds me of apartheid." You can say that, but then the response should be the same response as what you did to apartheid. You should be willing then to basically put your money where your mouth is, or remove your money from where your mouth is, rather. I think that we need, as in general, this is a South African problem in general, that we see a lot of lip service given to these issues, and it almost feels like that's expected to placate us and make us sit back and say, "Yeah, I mean, our government claims to be pro-Palestinian. That's enough for us. They hold one or two rallies. That's fine." I think, yeah, we maybe sometimes underestimate the power that a government can have. If you look at if you search Palestinian solidarity, I'm pretty sure it will take you maybe two seconds to find islands' support of the Palestinian struggle. So that's one country that I can think of, because they have gone to such lengths to make sure that there is no doubt that they support the Palestinian struggle, in terms of different art installations, in terms of different protests, but specifically their government. They have literally left no doubt in your mind that this is where they stand. Whereas South Africa is very hesitant. And I think that maybe that's on us, and maybe we do need to put more pressure and say that, yeah, you can say a nice speech, and everyone will clap for you. But at the end of the day, that doesn't save anyone's life, and that doesn't prevent 1 rand from going to Israel. So yeah, I think on us, we should take it more seriously, that responsibility. When I see that video of Zaina, the journalist, crying, thinking about the kids and her own experience being detained, asking us to put pressure on our government is minimal compared to the actual sufferings of people on the ground. So then it's on us to do everything that we can to do those things. So one thing would be pressuring our government. The other thing is having conversations like this. The other thing is sharing whatever content is produced in Palestine. There's a lot of things that we can do, and I think that maybe we need to take that role more seriously. International solidarity, we know, literally has the power to change the dynamic of. If you ask people how can Israel survive so long, it's because of international support. So similarly, how do we then, stop them from their occupation? International support is the only thing we can do, sitting 1,000 kilometers away.
Yeah, my closing remarks, I have to be somewhere. You guys can continue, inshallah. But my closing remarks would be, there's a reason why a 11 and a 12-year-old is being locked up. Because that 11 and 12-year-old is going to be the ones that is going to liberate Palestine. It's as simple as that. Those kids that are fearless, they have no fear in their heart. They are as brave as can be. And that is just the reality of the apartheid state of Israel. They fear 11-year-olds. That's all I'm taking from that video. They are scared of Muhammad and Abdullah that should be playing with toy cars and marbles and learning to ride a bike. But they are standing with rocks, and they have this immense amount of pride in being Palestinian, an immense amount of pride in being defenders of Masjid al-Aqsa. And because of that, they fear these 10 and 11-year-old boys. Guys, from my side, the program is going to continue for a few more minutes until it gets closed by Brother Arshad and Amaarah and Abdullah. But I have another engagement, inshallah. Shukran so much for joining in, and we will meet next week, Saturday, inshallah. Arshad is going to speak about the last presentation, bi'idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So from my side, we see each other next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, Mujaahid. Okay. Abdullah?
Yes.
Are you all settled in?
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Okay. The poster up on the screen now is called Operation Quds Shield. It's what we've termed the June 16 youth event that's being planned around Cape Town. And you can see all those logos on that poster. So it's a collaboration between many youth groups. And we are looking at a fundraising event, selling burgers on that day. And as the amount, I think, was pegged at 1,000. I think. Abdullah, remind me the amount of youth that was arrested in all the Quds in the Masjid al-Aqsa uprising of Ramadan.
So there was, there wasn't like a fixed number because they were busy, and they're still busy, arresting youth. At that time, just up until about a week ago, there was over 1,500. But Israel also, actually, the Israeli media were talking about arresting another 500 youth, and so the numbers keep going up and down because also the lawyers are busy, working with those who are being, arrested and all of that. So, but basically there is definitely over 1,500 youngsters who have been arrested. Like today, for example, there was another 2-3 of them that were arrested. So the numbers always, keep going up and down.
Yeah, so why I asked you that question, Abdullah, is because we want to sell Cape Town is going to sell that amount of burgers on that day, right? So just to make the number significant, to tie the number of the event that we are doing on 16 June in Cape Town, we are having at least 5 stations. We are at least having 5 different base stations, where youth groups are going to man a different station. People will be able to come and buy it there. They're going to have a delivery service, and we're going to tie the number to the number of youth that were arrested and injured in the the defense of Masjid al-Aqsa this Ramadan. And all of that funds, and we're going to take donations from people leading up to that day, on that day, 16 June, Youth Day. All of that funds is going to be channeled through Friends of Mizan to assist in the defense, of those brave youth, of those brave young men and women that laid their bodies, in Salah, in walking to Masjid al-Aqsa, in trying to get to it, or just to be there to protect it, so all of that money is, inshallah ta'ala, is dedicated to their defense in court, whatever is needed to assist them. So we hope, we pray, and we are calling all of Cape Town to make this event a major success. We've brought so many youth groups together, and I think that is also that's the future of the solidarity. I mean, it's called solidarity. It's about getting everyone together. I think it's time now for even just the Palestinian organizations all over South Africa to start to work, talking to each other more, being closer to each other. Yes, I mean, everyone at the moment is doing programs, is doing activities. I mean, we need to coordinate a little bit more closely. We need to be closer together, and then bring the community so much closer to us. It's all about, I mean, like we said, it's all about unity and solidarity, and that is the way we'll be able to pressure companies and then municipalities and the governments. And I think that this is where it needs to lead to. I can already tell the youth that the next event, so June 16, I mean, it's already on all of our calendars. We are asking you to please support this. It's an awesome youth event with a noble aim and a noble goal. After that, we want to take 100 youth, at least 100 youth from Cape Town to Pretoria. There was a call by Chief Mandla Mandela at the big march in Cape Town last month to have a big protest outside the Israeli embassy on Mandela Day. So we're looking at July 18, being in Pretoria with about 100 youth from Cape Town, going with a train. Imagine all that awareness on the train journey all the way from Cape Town to Pretoria. And I mean, so just from our side, we want to get 100 together under our banner. And then obviously the public and the community is going to be welcome to join. So there's a lot of exciting stuff that's going to be coming up. And we are calling youth to please, to join us, to make all of this a success. This is a long, and it represents the journey that we are on, this journey towards liberation. It's part of us. It's helping us to become more human when we support the humanity, and the fight for peace and justice in Palestine. It's actually us. We need it. We need it maybe more than this cause needs us. Maybe we need it more for our own selves, to keep ourselves just, to keep ourselves searching for peace, to keep ourselves more human. We've lost Abdallah there, Amaarah, and perhaps we could, in the next 2 minutes, wrap up so that the viewers can look forward to our next program, inshallah.
Yes, no problem at all. His message just says that he's stuck in the background of the show. So I think he is still here somewhere. I can't see a way to bring his video back. I'm not sure, Arshad, if you can.
I will ask Maulana Yusuf.
Yeah,
I think Maulana Yusuf is on technical. If Maulana Yusuf can bring Abdallah back so that he can also share with us some closing remarks, that will be awesome, Maulana Yusuf. If that's possible, please do it. Otherwise, we will ask Amaarah also for some. I think we want to start wrapping within the next 5 minutes, inshallah ta'ala.
No, hopefully I'll just take 1 minute. I think, inshallah, all of us from Gauteng will see you at the embassy on Mandela Day, inshallah. I agree with you. I think one is doing things together. The other is sharing what other people are doing, even if you can't be there physically. So please do share that poster, everyone that's watching, about the burger delivery day. that will happen on the 16th of June. We know the 16th of June is incredibly important, not just because it's a public holiday, and not just because people make speeches about it, but we know what it symbolizes and we know why that date is commemorated, although it should be mourned. So let's, do whatever we can to hopefully, inshallah, prevent those types of massacres from recurring in Palestine. I think all of us have, as hopeless as we feel, and sometimes we are quite, we are helpless. We can't do much. Whatever we can do, let's do it, inshallah, to the best of our abilities, with ihsan, and with the best intentions, of course. I think we underestimate ourselves in the role that we can play as citizens, and as Muslims specifically, in bringing justice for the Palestinians. So inshallah, we'll see that soon. Ameen.
Ameen. I was just messaging on Yusuf there. No, definitely. And the other point I was thinking about these days, Amaarah, is to a point, because we are so far away, right? So many thousands of kilometers, we can't, get to the border and throw, some support over there. Even just the channels to sometimes get support, even that is blocked by all these. And that's what we talk about. Like you said, this international solidarity. Once they pull out, then they'll be isolated and it'll be so much more difficult. And even for the support to reach, there's sometimes so many blockages along the way, and that is and we want to also ask the public to make sure you are supporting the most trusted organizations in your own country. What we've been seeing in South Africa, for example, and probably happening all over the world, with any crisis, there are always so many trying to take advantage of a crisis situation. At this moment in South Africa, we are seeing, like you said, with all your posts coming in, everyone's posting something. There's so many fundraisers, so for all of those that are collecting, that are doing fundraisers, great stuff. Carry on, but make sure that you hand it over to the most trusted organizations in our country, that that have the track record of working for this issue, that that have the channels, that that it's going to the into Palestine and all of that. We are already seeing, some people trying to take advantage personally from this. So that's the one point. The other point is an idea that came to me, is that definitely any activist working for Palestine, the way I see it, or the way I know it, is that any activist working for Palestine is already activists working for the best causes right here in their own country. If you look at the activists working, for example, for justice in Palestine, doing the good work in our own communities. For example, we know there is so much to be done in South Africa, whether it's in terms of just the food security. So many people are sleeping without food. The issues of dignity, issues of safety, women, kids, and there's so much leveled just under those headings. So what I'm saying is, if you want to do something to uplift your own community, your own area, those that are vulnerable, those that are suffering, just around your own city. We know there are so many just so close to us, those that suffered more than us in apartheid. That's just around us. If you're doing something right here, you are doing something for Palestine. Because when we fix what's happening here, when we fix this house will be strong to stand up for Palestine. When we are a just society here, then so this whole society will say an end to injustice over there. We won't stand for it. So this issue must push each and every South African that's making dua for Palestine, that's thinking they want to do something. It must push them to do something right here for their own family, for their own neighbor, for those that they know is suffering. And if you don't know somebody in your direct circle, go and look for them. They are all around you. Or look for those that are doing something. I think that's an important idea that's been lingering in my head these days, and I want to push that out to all youth and to all South Africans, that the more we do for South Africa, the more we are doing for Palestine. No, because sometimes some wants to accuse us. Yeah, sometimes someone wants to accuse us of saying, yeah, but now why are you taking R1 million to Palestine or whatever rands to Palestine when it's needed in this township and in that township and in this place and in that place? So I say, just as we are taking it there, we are taking it here. If just as we are wanting to do there to help them, we are doing it right here. And I know that most of the people that are involved in any Palestinian solidarity are the ones that are already involved on the ground right here in so many other organizations as well. I just thought those points need to also come across to our community. Let me see what is Mona Yusuf saying. Mona Yusuf has left. Okay. It's Abdullah. You have to forgive us. It seems Mona Mujaahid left, and I don't know how to bring Abdullah in. I don't think I am the
are you
host.
not the host?
I wasn't.
Abdallah says he forgives us.
Okay, we appreciate that, Abdullah. So also we have spent an hour and a half with the viewers. I know the viewers are definitely itching to see Abdullah and all the Palestinians and what's happening on the ground. And maybe in the next week, inshallah, on the pages we are going to share maybe some videos that Abdullah will share with us and others. And then we will start preparing for the next program very soon, inshallah ta'ala. We thank Amaarah for joining us, and Abdullah and Mullah Mujaahid for hosting most of the show. And excuse me for coming on a little bit late because of the traffic. And let me see if there's any messages from Abdullah maybe before we go off. No, we'll never exclude you, Abdullah. We never exclude you. Don't say that. We just subhanAllah, we want to split you in half, Abdullah. Just as we want you in Palestine, we want you in South Africa. So many Palestinians are also needed right here to help remind us of our own struggle history. To help help us. Wallahi, I think when we work for Palestine, we are helping ourselves on our own path of recovery. So much healing is still needed in South Africa, for the apartheid wounds, and so much redress and so much is needed. I think when Palestinians come here and we try to help them, we are also in that same way actually helping ourselves. With that, we say Jazakumullah khair for everyone listening. Please look out for the posters for the June 16 event coming up, and all the other lives that's coming up. And Abdullah says, I also wish I was in South Africa now. Yes, and maybe you'll have the vaccine by the time he gets back. We ask Allah to keep us all safe and to keep us on this noble path, working for this noble and just cause. There's a lot of events happening, I'm sure, in every city, again, even this weekend. We were called to give talks at 3 different events in Cape Town tomorrow. And if that's only Youth for al-Quds, then I know there must be tens of events happening all over Cape Town, as is in all the other cities. Keep that light burning, youth and youth leaders and activists. And soon, we will all be in a free and liberated Palestine, and praying there and worshipping there and eating the shawarmas there, and walking in the old city, and all of that, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
فرصة